We are now in Parashat VaYetse. Now, Parashat VaYetse continues the story of this amazing family, the family of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That if you just read the story of the family, uh, it doesn't look right so many times, even upsetting sometimes. And we have the story is VaYetse. VaYetse means to depart, to get out. Okay? And here we're starting with the parasha, VaYetse Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana. And the name of the parasha usually covers up the secret of the parasha. Why it's called VaYetse? Because even Rashi himself says there must be a secret in it, because what does it say? Rashi says, VaYetse, לא היה צריך לכתוב, אלא וילך יעקב חרנה. It will be enough to say, and Jacob went to Haran. It says he got out of Beersheva and he went to Haran. Now, this is redundant. It's like if he went to Haran, of course he left Beersheva. And why does it say that he had to get out of Beersheva? That's a very important thing that we have to take it for us, because we're not reading about history. We're reading about ourselves. Especially, look, we're reading this book for 34 centuries. It's the same words, same language, same letters. Nothing changed. It's still a bestseller, which means there's something in it that it's not just a story. Okay? So we'll continue. And the story goes on, Vayifga b'makom, and he hit the word Vayifga. He didn't encounter the place, he hit a place, what it says, like, when a bullet hits somebody, or when you hurt somebody, you really hit him inside. That's the word Vayifga. Vayalen sham kiva shemesh, vayikach me'avnei hamakom v'yaseh merashotav vayishka b'makom hahu. Okay, first of all, Rashi gives us a big headache about the interpretation of that stuff. When it says VaYetse Yaakov miBeersheva vayelech Haran, it says that Jacob went from Beersheva to Haran. However, Haran is in Turkish Kurdistan of today. That's quite a walk. Okay, it's like, I don't know, it's like a few thousand kilometers. That takes a long time. But Jacob didn't walk the way. He did what is called Kfitzat Haderech. Kfitzat Haderech means that he departed for one point and arrived in the other point, and he hasn't been in any point in the middle. Logically, this is unacceptable. Scientifically, it's already
quantum theory.
It's a quantum theory, yes. This is exactly what is called a quantum leap. When was that published? I think it was maybe 1927. It was published in the first time with the Niels Bohr. Einstein thought that this theory is stupid. The more you learn it. That's when Einstein and Bohr argued. When Einstein said, I don't believe that God playing dice. And Niels Bohr said, if God wants to play dice, you can't tell him what to do. Whatever he wants, because it looks like, where are the rules? Everything has to be regulated and rules. And it was even proven later on again and again that information, in the beginning it was information, can deliver it from one point to another without being in the middle. And then they started with electrons, today with atoms, and today they're working on the quantum computer, which will be the next big thing. A quantum computer. Can you imagine? You send a message and nobody can intercept it on the way because it leaps to another computer. That's something. But that thing is called Kfitzat Haderech, jumping the road. And I don't know if you remember, there was a science fiction movie in the 80s based on an older book by Frank Herbert, Dune, D-U-N-E. And the man that's supposed to be the symbol of humanity jumping to another leap, that in the book in English, his name, he was called the Kfitzat Haderech, Hebrew. If you don't know Hebrew, you know what he's saying, but the quantum leap. The quantum leap means you're here and then you're there, you haven't been on the way, and that's also called, it's a leap that has no logic behind it. Now, if you look at the history of mankind, not just the history of mankind, even before the evolutionary process, the evolutionary process is a very slow, perpetual system of gradual change, but without the quantum leaps that nobody can explain, you cannot explain evolution according to modern science. Same thing about history. There's the gradual move, and then comes the leap. Let's say we have witnessed some leaps in our generation. For instance, 1990 was a great leap. Suddenly, the Iron Curtain collapsed in no time, relatively to what nobody foresaw that before. Then the appearance of the internet, and then the cellular phone. Whoa! And you can't imagine humanity without it today. And that was a quantum leap. There was a leap from one pace to another pace, nothing in between. And now you have so many people, billions of people around the world with access to internet and smartphones. That is changing everything. The game is totally different. And leaps like this have happened before, like the invention of the wheel and stuff like this. Finding discovery of America, 1492. You can't say the world is the same. The world is totally different before and after. Without these quantum leaps in a person's private, personal life, life is nothing. Life is full of those leaps, and without it, people die. They simply stay in the same place, and they, if you leave something in the same place too long, it starts to smell, doesn't go well. People need that leap, and the secret of that leap is here. We'll see how. First of all, he says there's a leap, but somehow Jacob, Yaakov Avinu, he planned to jump to Haran. But then it says he heard, something in the coordinates didn't work, and he hit the place. What is the place? We heard about the place before when Abraham took Isaac to be bound on the mountain, and all along the story, the place is called the place. So tradition says, what's the place that Jacob hits? That's the same place where the altar of Isaac was, the place that later on the temple was built by King Solomon, and then the second temple, and so on. That's one Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. But here there's another story. It says, Vayalen sham kiva shemesh, and he slept over there because the sun set. What do you mean the sun set? Sun sets every day around the same time, gradually, but no, here there was no gradual. It was the sunset much earlier, on the spot. The moment Jacob arrived, the sun set, he couldn't go anywhere. Okay, so he had to go to sleep. And so, Kiba Shemesh, Mashma, says Rashi, Sheshak'al, Rashi, whoever doesn't know, Rashi was a great scholar in France in the 11th century. He wrote the most important commentaries to the Torah, to the prophets, and to the Talmud. Okay, Rashi, initials of Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki. Some say he invented champagne. Okay, he was the winer of the king. That's why he was spared during the Crusades, while most of the Jews of France were hurt totally. Okay, so he says, what do we learn? And Rashi does not bring it on himself. He always brings that stuff from more ancient writings. Okay, and it says that the sun set pitom, suddenly, shelo ba'onata, not on its time. And then it says, VaYetse merashotav vayishka b'makom, vayikach mavnei makom, he took from the stones. We are in Genesis chapter 28, verse 11. And he put the stones around himself, under his head. Okay? And then Rashi brings a story. He also brings it from the more ancient commentaries. And he's saying The moment he put the stones, he says the stones started to fight with each other. Okay? Like, you hear it every day, stones fighting with each other, don't you? Okay? זאת אומרת עליי יניח צדיק את ראשו, וזאת אומרת עליי יניח. So each one will say, no, this righteous man, he should put his head on me, not on you. Okay? Very weird story, right? You have to agree to that. Okay, so מיד עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא אבן אחת. Immediately the creator made them one stone. That's why when he gets up, Jacob, he says that he said, oh, this is the gate of heaven. That must be the house of God. So he took some oil and he poured on the stone. We said it was stones. There were stones, right? So they became one. That's the only explanation. Okay? Very reasonable, right? Same way the people jump from one place to another, just like this. Okay? There are a lot of stories about Kabbalists who did do something like this. And you know what? I know personally people who witnessed Kfitzat HaDerech, the person jumping from one place to another, but that's another story. Okay. So what do we do with all of these stories? And Rashi, he's supposed to make everything clear, it just got messed us up, right? If we thought that it's a nice story, it became a very perplexing story. It's like, what are you trying to tell me? Now in his dream, that's verse 12, ויחלום, והנה סולם מוצב ארצה וראשו מגיע שמיימה. And he had a dream about that ladder, that the head of the ladder is the heaven, and it's standing on the earth. And he sees the angels of God coming up and going down the ladder. והנה השם ניצב עליו, and God is standing upon the ladder. And that's a revelation. And he says, אני השם אלוקי אברהם אביך, I'm the God, the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. הארץ אשר אתה שוכב עליה לך אתננה ולזרעך. The land you're lying on, I'm going to give it to you and to your offsprings. והיה זרעך כף הארץ, and your offsprings will be like the soil, so many, of the earth, and you will burst to the west and east, north and south, ונברחו בך כל משפחות האדמה וזרעך, and all the families of the earth will be blessed by you and by your offsprings. This is basically, Jacob is getting like reinstallment of the blessing that Abraham got and his father Isaac got from the beginning. And when he wakes up, ויקץ יעקב משנתו, and Jacob wakes up from his sleep, and he says, indeed, there is God in this place. And I did not know. Because he bumped into it, he didn't know where he arrived to. וירא, and he was in awe, ויאמר, מה נורא המקום הזה, how awesome is this, is the place. אין זה כי אם בית אלוהים, must be the house of God. וזה שער השמיים, and that must be the gate of heaven. So, Jacob anoints that stone, and he makes a promise, if I survive the journey and I come back, I tie to God, and I will make this the house of God. So we know from there, that's the basics of the holiness of Jerusalem. But again, what's in it to us? The continuation before that. And Jacob goes and he says, וישא יעקב רגליו וילך, chapter 29, verse 1. And Jacob raised his feet and he went to the east. And then he sees a well, and there's another story about he sees a lot of herds of flocks around the well, and he's perplexed. It's like, it's not nighttime yet. Why are you gathering the flocks? And they say, you see, on the well, there's a big stone, very big stone. And only when a lot of shepherds get together, we can roll away the stone and we can give the water to the sheep. And then he asks him, so do you know where are you from? They say, we're from Haran. So Jacob said, oh, this time I got the coordinates well. So, but why I'm next to this well? Just to remind you, where was Eliezer? Where did he find Rebecca? By the well. He's by the well. So, oh, that's they always. And where did Moses find Zipporah? By the well. That's a place, for speed dating. Now, and he asked him, do you know Lavan, his uncle? And they said, oh, of course we know him. He's okay. He says he's in peace. He's in peace. And here's Rachel, his daughter, coming with the sheep. And he sees Rachel. He rolls by himself the stone. And he gives the water to the sheep. He sees, and when she approaches, he tells her, I'm your cousin. And he kisses her and he cries. Like that was love of first sight. Then the famous story, he goes home with her. Her father says, okay, what are you doing here? So then, I came to marry your daughter, but only Rachel. And then he cheats him, and in the morning it was Leah, and he's upset. I was in love with Rachel. I thought this is okay. So Lavan says, wait 7 days till the 7 days of the happiness is over. You get Rachel and you walk 7 more years for her. Finally, the story ends with the birth of the 12 sons of Jacob on 11. 11 in this parasha. And finally, they leave. They leave Lavan. They run away not before Jacob is making a fortune, in spite of Lavan's sabotage. Okay, now, after getting the parasha, what's in it for us? And it's all in the word VaYetse. Now, let us understand in the context, why is Jacob leaving Beersheba, his parents? Because in previous parasha, we hear the battle between Jacob and Esau. Okay? And the battle is very fierce. Finally, Jacob is buying the birthright from Esau for a bowl of lentils, right? One of the most famous acquisitions in history. Okay? A brother is selling his birthright for a bowl of lentil. Now you come home and you're hungry and you want to eat and there's food and your brother is cooking and saying, oh, not for free. That's very weird, right? Okay? Later on, Jacob has to steal the blessing. Why do you have to steal? He sold the birthright. That's your blessing. No, he has to steal it. Why is not standing for himself saying, but Esau sold it to me. And you know what? You read the story, Esau admits that he sold the birthright in front of Isaac. And finally he gets another blessing, the blessing of Abraham, when Isaac is given to him. So we explained last week, I don't want to go too much into the details, you can listen to last week's portion, but on the side, but we explained that when we're talking about Jacob and Esau and this weird relationship that they have, of this totally dysfunctional family, okay, as it looks like, we understand, according to the Zohar, that Jacob and Esau symbolize the two aspects of our personality. Each human being, has a Jacob and an Esau. What is Esau about? He goes for the hunting. He's red. He's hairy. He's getting upset very easily. He screams and he cries. This is that part of us that we're born with. This little kid, even after we grow older, we behave many times as kids by wanting it now, and we go into a tantrum if we can't get it. Right? It's called by the wisdom of Rabbi Ashlag, the founder of the modern Kabbalistic movement and the commentator of the Zohar, the Sulam commentary, said that's called Esau is red. And red symbolizes the lowest frequency desires in a person. And this is the aspect of our personality, the body aspect, and the selfish part, the childish part, which is called the desire to receive for the self alone. Now, every person has also the Jacob part, but the Jacob part comes later. That's called bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. This is the day when a girl is 12 and when a boy is 13. On that day, they get a special extra soul. That part that is a true soul. This is the part that has another kind of desire. It's called the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. This is the altruistic, more spiritual, more balanced. And since that moment, and the legend says that the selling of the birthright was on their bar mitzvah, which means it's a hint. That's our bar mitzvah. We have that opportunity when we come to bar mitzvah. A lot of us miss it because we misunderstand what bar mitzvah is about. We think bar mitzvah is about showing off how much money your parents have, right? And and how big is the show they can raise in front of all the friends and the family, correct? Unfortunately. However, for us, understanding what really happens, everybody knows that from the moment the child is getting bar mitzvah, you're starting a very rough course of few dangerous years. Why? If you watch a rodeo, when the bull is old enough and you try to ride the bull the first time, he goes really crazy. When we get bar mitzvah and the Jacob is coming in, Esau is getting really crazy. It's like, I am the only one over here. I was the only one till now, and I'm not going to change my ways. Now, depends if you're not prepared for it. Those teen days could be miserable. You have no idea who you are. You have this fight. Why this fight? Listen carefully. It says, and Esau is coming from the hunting, and he's tired. And he says, if I'm not going to eat the lentil soup, I'm going to die. And it's very simple. Our generation, in the modern world, in the the enlightened world, is a very Esau generation. This is the generation of shop till you drop. This is the generation, if I want it, I must get it. And if I want it, nobody should tell me it's not moral, it's not ethical. The moment I desire it, must be right. Must be kosher. Why? Because I want it. Isn't that, that justifies everything. The problem is, when a person receives for himself alone, that's called the Esau way, it kills you. Being selfish is deadly. Sages are saying, Reshaim bechayehem nikraim metim. What is Rasha? Rasha is not evil. Rasha is initials of Ratzon Shel Atzmo. People, selfish people, they are dead while they're still alive. How come? How dare you say something like this? They're dead. Why? Because God is life. The energy of life, what Jews call Chai, the Chinese call Chi, the Japanese call Chi, Ki doesn't matter. This is the energy of life. It's endless. How much of it? There's enough for everyone. The problem is, when you take it for yourself, just for yourself alone, there's kind of discrepancy because here is the endless light of life, which is endless. And here's me, and I'm finite because I want only for myself. And I'm the last, just it. It's I get it and nobody else. You become, the moment you're finite, how can you connect to the infinite? Because similarities attract. So being selfish, Kabbalistically, you immediately cut yourself off the frequency of life. How come selfish people are still alive? Do you call that living? I never met happy, selfish people. And what the sages are saying, yesh lo maneh rotze 200. You have 100, you want 200. You have 200, you want. It's never enough. You're never satiated. You're never happy. You call that a life? Especially today, people wonder, and I say it again many, many times. Why is it that so many people are depressed so much? Isn't that just a coincidence? In a generation that people have today more than their parents, much more than their grandparents, much more than their great-great-grandparents. Like just 3 generations ago, who had a bathroom in the house? You had to go out in the snow for the bathrooms, right? You had to go. Who had electricity? Phones, smartphones. Who had the ability to have to live in a nice house with the carpet, whatever? Most people had a thresh. That's why you have a threshold in the house to hold the thresh. It was just straw or dirt as your. That was not just 100 years ago. Most of our grandparents lived like this. And now, so how come we are so depressed? How come so many? How do you know? Ask in the pharmacies. What is the number one remedies against depression? Why? And the answer is, if you're being raised to be selfish, you're being raised to cut yourself away from the light of God. And the moment that's the gone, you're left with a pain. It's never enough. How many restaurants you have to go to be happy? It will never be enough. These people, no matter what, they'll always find something wrong with the chef, with the food, with the chair, with the table, with the angle. The table is set. Something will be wrong. You can't make those people happy. Why? Because they are selfish. And because they're being raised like this. When you're like this and you take and you take and you take, it makes you tired. One of the biggest diseases of today, the plague, is chronic fatigue. That's Esau's disease. Why people get so depressed and so tired? You get tired just being by yourself. So you know what? You come, then you're looking for some spirituality. So you go to India maybe. You take a class in yoga. Maybe you take something Buddhist in the mountains. People go for it. Why? Because when you get so painful, you come to your own Jacob and you say, feed me. Come your own soul, feed me. If you don't feed me, I'm dead. So, VaYazed Yaakov Nazid. What is VaYazed? So, it looks like a stew. But a stew is another thing. Mezid in Hebrew means by purpose. The soul has, and that's, that part in us, the spiritual part of us, has to always have the thoughts and the calculations. How do I make a good fight with my own selfishness and my own Esau? And you have to make tricks. Why? Because in our world, who reigns supreme? The Esau's, not the Jacobs, right? Who comes first in politics, in business? Who gets the most in the power games of our society for thousands of years? Who has the birthright? Esau. In our previous parasha, we learned that this is the story. Don't wait till that will change, because it doesn't change that soon. You have to get yourself to the position of victory in spite of the fact that there is no justice. In spite that Esau is the firstborn, that the body comes first and the body interests in this world come first. Now you got it? Now go and be spiritual. You want to be happy? Yeah, but there's those evil people. None of your business. You want to be happy. You want to be healthy. You want to have a healthy life. You need to find a Jacob inside you. You need to study and to study, because the war is a psychological war. It's a warfare. And it's a psychological warfare. And the war is happening right now in our age. And it's about who is in control. The new brands that come out that you have to buy, you have to shop, the banks that you have to owe them more money. Who is running your life? Because somebody told you have to have that stuff you don't really need, you have to have it? Is that what runs your life? Or the question, how can I live a life that makes a difference, in which I make other people happy when I become happy, in which I share, in which I can create something more healthy than just shop till you drop? And that's the story. It's the everlasting fight between Jacob and Esau. So Esau wants to kill Jacob. So Jacob goes to look for a wife. That's the story. But when we say VaYetse Yaakov mi Beersheva, we learn that Jacob is not just a person. Jacob is that soul power. And what's a soul power? He's a build-up of three stages: Abram, Isaac, and Jacob. And Abram, we learned, is a symbol for that part that every person has to learn to develop, and it's called giving, sharing, and loving, or in Hebrew, chesed. This is what Abram is about. That's why the life story is about chesed. But being spiritual does not mean that you just love everyone unconditionally, just you give whatever they ask you for. No, that's not spiritual. You become depleted and miserable, and then you hate everybody because you gave everything and you're left with nothing. You know, these kind of people, that it never goes well. So Abram is not enough. You need Isaac. And what is Isaac about? That's about judgment. Gevurah. Gevurah has two meanings. One meaning is I want, and that's why his father Abram has to bind him, because every time we have this I want and I need and I desire, you have to bind it with your Abram. If you want to be happy, you have to make sure other people get happy too. If you want to win, make sure it's a win-win. Oh, it's tough. You need to bind a lot. You need to work very hard about it. And if you want to give up your desire to receive, don't forget what it says. And the angel of God said to Abram, don't touch the lad. Which means your desire to receive is there because God created you this way. He made you to want because you are supposed to enjoy. It's your first birthright, to enjoy. Now, if you want to really enjoy, you have to connect to the light of God. You want to connect to the light of God, you have to be in the wavelength. What is the wavelength? Desire to receive for the sake of sharing. Abraham binding Isaac. The right is binding the left, like the tefillin. Okay? So who was born as a result of that binding? Jacob. Jacob is that power. And now what is that power? You know, it's very simple to know how to give, where to give. You know, people always want something. And you always have a demand, right? Give me this, give me this. Give me a smile, give me a hug. Give me money, give me power, give me, you know, a lot of giving. People always want you to give them. So that's very, very well defined. Giving. On the other hand, if you want to survive, you need to receive, because if you don't receive, there is nothing to give. But if you develop your receiving too much without the giving, then you become an Esau. And you're never satisfied, you're never satiated, because you never connect to the light. It's always fake. Fake joy, fake excitement, fake fulfillment. Maybe it lasts very shortly. There's a high and there's a buy. Either by alcohol. And now, do you know, we said a real, truthful fulfillment is everlasting. It's something that you build on. You don't wake up with a headache the morning after. It's something that gives you the certainty and the self-esteem to move on, because you don't lose that. So, how do you get there? This is always, as we said, receiving is very clear, sharing is very clear. Some people try just to give. You know, I'm here just to give. You know, a lot of people say, I'm in this world only to give. And why do you give? So because it makes me feel good. Oh, so you're not just giving, you're about feeling good. So don't tell me you're just about giving. You're about feeling good. If you give and you don't feel good about it, do you continue giving? No. So you're not here about giving. You're about taking. You're not aware of it. That's a problem. So that's a problem, that when you give and you feel good about it and you expect a thank you in return, you gave once and you expect for twice return. Is that normal? And then we get upset. You know, I gave him so much and he didn't ever said thank you. And he said thank you, but it was not really a thank you. We said before, that takes you wrong places. Why? Because your happiness is conditioned by somebody else thank you. That's called idol worshiping. You made somebody else your God. If they are nice to you, you're happy. They're not nice to you, you're not happy. If they're nice to you today, you're afraid they're not going to be nice to you tomorrow. This game is lost from the beginning. Nobody ever can control your happiness. Only your direct connection to the light of the Creator. That's what it is. And that's what we have to work on. How do you do that? So we said giving alone doesn't last. You become depleted. Receiving just alone can give you a big high, but then terrible pain afterwards till it kills you. Kills you because you become tired. What's the biggest problem in business? Erosion. People get too much upset, too much stress. Why? Too many disappointments, right? You're disappointed from people, business deals. It's like then it becomes chaotic. And then you develop heart problems and then brain strokes, all because of the pressure and the stress. Why? That's Esau. How do you solve the problem? How can I be spiritual and happy at the same time? How can I be altruistic and also keep my identity and be me and never sacrifice myself? That's Jacob. This is the secret of Jacob. Jacob is the amalgamation. This is the synthesis of Abraham and Isaac. Now, but this is kind of thinking out of the box. And that's why, what's the first word of this parasha? VaYetse Yaakov. Mi Beersheva. What is Beersheva? Beersheva is this world. 7 is this world. How many parts do you have this world? You have front and back, 2. Up and down, 4. Right and left, 6. And yourself, 7. That's your box. Getting out of the box, that's victory. VaYetse Yaakov in Beersheva, he gets out of the box. How is that logical? No, it's a quantum leap. You look at the problem. They want so much, I need so much. How could that go together, right? You know, people have a very good expression to it lately. It's called win-win against win-lose. Logic says, you know, if I win, they have to lose. If I become rich, somebody has to become poor. Somebody has to give it up, right? If they become rich, I have to become poor, right? So that's win-lose. And the Kabbalists explain win-lose is coming from a very ancient place. It's called the tree of life, good and evil. Win and lose. What's the tree of life, good and evil? What's good for you is bad for somebody else. If I want to be happy, somebody else has to be miserable. You know what? I think this is the biggest religion in the world. The religion of believing. It's not believing, having the faith in pain. If I have to be successful, it has to be on somebody else's expense, right? And what we learn that win-lose doesn't last. Because as we said, it tires you. But win-win, that stuff, you have to think out of the box. How do I have the gain in a way that others have the gain too? For example, 2008, the world is getting a blow. Why? The whole economy is shaking, almost collapsing. Why? Because people took and they took and they took and they took till there was nothing to take anymore. And suddenly the whole pyramid collapsed, right? That's what happened. So now they had to print money so people can continue taking. So since then, the big banks in the world, especially the biggest banks in the world, were printing money. So people still have what to take. How does that work? I have no idea. It's a miracle. How long would that go on? I have no idea. But let's talk about us. Why is that people still miserable and upset? Because when you take, that's what happens when you only take. So there was a research that was published a little bit later by the FDA and MIT, the Federal American Reserve, and the Massachusetts Institute for Technology. Okay? And the research was about what makes people happy. And they found out, when you don't have really enough money to just live, more money makes you happy. But that goes up only for a very low place. After a very low place, people are kind of okay. When they have food, when they have a car, simple car takes them one place to another, they're happy. You add more money, they get less and less happy the more money they get. So what makes them happy? And they made the research, they found out meaning. When you work and you feel that you're doing something that is meaningful, also for others, that makes you happy. Beyond just the amount of money. And that brings us back. There was this guy, I think, what's his name, was Collins. He wrote this book, he published this research, Built to Last, about those great American companies that he made an experiment. He didn't make the experiment, he just took the records. And he found out that the companies that believed not in money, not in gain, not in win-lose, they believed in win-win and they really lived that. They, over time, made much more money than the companies were doing it just for the money. This is illogical. This is illogical. If you study Kabbalah, this is very logical. If you just come to work to take, you get tired. And what happens to your productivity when you get tired? You're less productive. You're less creative. And you don't make so much money anymore. Right? Because you're tired. On the other hand, when you come to work, and money is a byproduct, and you come to make a difference, you might come to serve, and you come to make the world a better place. And you know what? If something doesn't work, you don't become tired because of it. You get excited for the challenge because you connect to life. That's a win-win. That's a Jacob consciousness. That's a getting out of the box, which is, yeah, but we're here to make a living, so I have to think about myself first. You're stupid. As long as you just think about yourself, you're killing yourself. You're tiring yourself. And that's what the Esav is about. It's our generations. We took everything. We're being everywhere. We look for it everywhere. We have so much. What's wrong with us? Why do I have to go? So the question is, when is Esav going to come to Jacob and say, I'm tired, feed me. Feed me. Because without the soul, without the spirituality, there's no place for me. So that's about Jacob, that quantum leap. The solution is not in your old logic. Who said it? Einstein? You cannot use the same logic to get out of your problems, because that logic got you into the problems. So you need another logic. What's another logic? The win-win. That's called the tree of life logic. The tree of life is the one that is a Jacob consciousness. The consciousness that I'm here to be happy. And that's okay to be happy, as long as I share it with others. As long it's not on the expense of others. As long it's win-win. It works, it's proven, has a meaning. That's a Jacob consciousness. However, you have to get out. You have to make a quantum leap to get it, because if you're being raised in a society of consumption, God forbid, if the country is not moving up in the level of, productivity and money making, whatever, the world is falling apart. That's one of the biggest idols. No, this is not what measures society's success. What measures society's success. And the UN is starting to realize that when they come out, in the last few years, they come out with the happiness grades to countries. And they realize it's not, being happy is not, First of all, it's not just what you say if you're happy, because we're all about faking it. Isn't that what normal society is about? Faking it, looking like you are happy, and then going to the shrink and crying for an hour, paying him a lot of money, and then you come another day to cry all over again. That's our society. So they found out it's not just about if you say you're happy. It's also about your family, community contacts. How many people you really think will be there when you fall? Happiness is much more just saying it. Because you say it, but do you really believe in it? Happiness is about getting out of the box. And if you are in that box that says that if you have the latest model of a smartphone, or the latest model of a car, or the most expensive car or house, you must be happy. It's a conditioning that you have to break. That's VaYetse Yaakov. Yaakov is that consciousness which is called the central column. The ability to know, I want to be happy, I must be happy. That's my birthright to be happy. God created me to be happy. I'm at my best when I'm happy, but you can't just be happy by yourself. You have to be happy while, it's like, how do I breathe in while I'm breathing out? How do I make money while making other people, giving them real service? That's called being a professional. A real professional is someone that is getting money, but he makes other people really feel served. You made your day, their day. That's being a real professional. You're not there to rob people from time and money. You're just here to share. Oh, yes, you have to take money because without the money, you cannot serve them. Right? It's not a perpetual system. That's the getting out of Jacob. But in order to do that, you have to break all kinds of old patterns of logic. And you have to break the pattern of space. Two people living in the same house. Some people, there was this picture, a young couple. They are living in a small little tiny place. They hardly have a table to eat, but they're so happy. Then they get richer, so the table grows bigger, so the space between the two grows bigger. Until finally you see them very rich. They live in a mansion, a table the length of like, wow, 10, 20 meters, and one sits over here, one sits over there. They hardly see each other. They feel much better like this. Which shows what? That's happiness. That's not happiness. You have to get out of the box to create happiness. And to get out of the box means that space. Two people living in a small little tiny apartment and they feel cozy and happy. And when they hate each other, they can live in a big mansion and they still can send each other. Or some people, the planet is too small for them. So it's not about the size. It's not about the space. The two people feel like one and they live in two different continents. They feel each other. The two people don't feel each other and they sleep in the same bed. Isn't that what we see? Oh yes, so far from each other. Jacob, when you arrive to that place which is called the central column, which Jacob symbolized, desire to receive for the sake of sharing. The moment you arrive to that place, you find a different logic. Then the people that upset you before, they don't upset you anymore. How do you know? Remember the story about that convert who came to the rabbi and asked him, teach me the whole Torah standing on one foot? There are two versions. One by Hillel the elder, that's about 30 years before Christian era, and one version by Rabbi Akiva, 130, which is about 160 years later. And both of them said the same thing. Don't do to others what you want to be done to you, what you don't want to be done to you, or love others as you love yourself. Which means, how do you know you really manage to behave the way Jacob gave us? And the answer is, if you really behave that way, and you jumped out of your box, you connected to the light of God. And when you connected to the light of God, you can't hurt somebody else. You feel other people. You can't not loving other people unconditionally. Why? Because when you're full with the light of God, then you're full with love and the space for everyone. You even have the patience to see somebody making a mistake and let him the space to grow out of his mistakes without you having the need to impose the right on him. They can't do it themselves. They have to do it themselves. Then we have the story about that the sun sets not on time. So not just that Jacob skips the space, he skips also time. And then the stones getting together, that's also another illusion. And you know, this is the whole thing about the modern physics that says that our consciousness is so far away from reality. Quantum physics, the string theory, there's so many other theories later on. You just learn about them, they look so far-fetched, so illogical. But you know what? Is love logical? Is happiness logical? You come to somebody who's happy, asking, can you explain it to me, please? You can't explain happiness. It's either you are there or you're not. That's the truth of life. So, all of these, when you reach that place, then you reach another place. You can see the ladder, that the head is in the heaven and its feet on the earth. You can live with your feet on the earth and your head is in the heaven. You can live in both worlds. One world is a world of physicality, but this is a world of contrast and confusion and chaos, and you can't understand anything. Why? Because it's the nature of this physical world. Only when you live, as we said about Sarah. Sarah, how many years she lived? 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. The two lives of Sarah. What? Shnei Chayei Sarah. The two lives of Sarah. What's the two lives of Sarah? She lived a double life. She lived in a life in this physical world, and she lived in the upper world. Jacob lived in both worlds. That's how he had the merit to connect to the other world too. He had the ability to have the ladder. And what the sages of the Zohar is saying, the ladder Sulam has the same numerical value as Sinai. What was Mount Sinai? It was the first time a whole nation saw that you can live in two worlds simultaneously. Not that you can, that's your calling as a human being. That's why you have a brain so sophisticated. So you can live on both realities. And only when you live on both realities, it makes sense. Life makes sense. And because, look, later on Jacob is coming to Lavan. He sees Rachel. He knows she is the one. 7 years he works for her. And this righteous man, this wise man, he didn't see that that was Leah in the wedding. How come he didn't find out? Only in the morning he wakes up and he realizes this is Leah. How could you cheat somebody this way? But think about it. Rachel gave birth to Reuben, to Shimon, to Levi, to Judah, Issachar, and Zvulun. That's half of the 12 tribes. Judah, you know, you call Jews Jews because they were from Judah, right? So without Leah, half the nation won't be here. The word Jews won't be here. Judea won't be here. It was thanks to Leah. Thank God he didn't see. To show us the fact that you do the right thing, don't expect that logically you're going to get what you think you should get. You're going to get what you're supposed to get, which is the best for you. Without Leah, 6 tribes won't be here. No Judah, not Levi, right? You know, people who are Levi or Cohen, they're all coming from Levi. Without Leah, no Levi, no Cohen. Forget it. How could Joseph manage without Leah? Yaakov. And the answer? He didn't know. So, because he did the right thing, he got it against his logic. And how many times in history of mankind there was a great discovery out of a failure, right? Columbus, he thought, looks like he sold it. Him and Rabbi Avraham Zakuto, who was the astronomer of the king, was a great Kabbalist. They sold the idea to the king that the world is round. So if you sail west, you're going to find India. They know there's some other continents because it says in the Zohar. So Rabbi Avraham Zakuto, he knew the Zohar. But Ferdinand gave the money for that. And finally, this journey came out. It changed. Why? It was getting out of the box. Getting out of thinking the world is just, just this. The symbol is because since 1490, the Kabbalist said, the whole world is into breaking those barriers of logic and belief system, and we learned that our logic has nothing to do with reality. Till 120 years ago, everybody was sure that objects heavier than air cannot fly. Only when the Wright brothers flew, everybody said, oh, so we can fly. So since then, everybody flies, right? It's very, very hard to find somebody who didn't fly an airplane. 100 years ago, out of the history of mankind, nobody was flying, right? How many times we face this is illogical, but it is real? When you connect the right and the left, me and you, that's called love. Then you can connect this world and the other world. That's called a bigger frame of love, because love is also unity. And then your world becomes a whole. And that's a symbol of the ladder. Now, the result, that Jacob is giving birth to 12 sons. The 12th will be born in the next parasha, but the pregnancy started in this parasha. What are the 12? The Zohar teaches us. These are the 12 signs of the zodiac, which is the 12 aspects of human personality, the 12 aspects of controlling one's destiny. Having those tribes being the chariots for the tribe, giving humanity the ability to control nature, to control what's written in the skies, like Abraham started. So the whole parasha is about one thing: getting out of your logic, embarking out of it into a journey. You have no idea where it's going to lead you to, but it's going to be much better if it's coming from desire to receive for the sake of sharing. I want to be happy, I want to be successful, and I want to make a difference so other people can feel that too. If you get that power, everything is possible. Then you see in history of mankind so many people who wanted to make a difference, and they made the unbelievable come true. Don't we know that? Isn't that what gives you when you study about great people who did for others and became great people because of that, because they got the power to do that? But that's one kind. But still, being able to jump from Beersheba to Haran or to Jerusalem, being able to hop over time, it's not a complete picture. It's not a complete picture. And here comes the Kabbalist saying to us, there is something else. There are two kinds of universes. There's a universe of cause and effect, punishment and reward. Logic, you do right and you get what you need, and then you do the wrong and then you get punished, whatever. And that's all about logic, and it's all about, you make a mistake, you have to pay for it, and then you outgrow it, and then there's growing pains and stuff like this. And, You know what? Most of our lives, we're supposed to live by that. Sometimes there's no time for that. So the Kabbalists say that, especially in the teachings of the Machal and the Sephardic Kabbalah, that's called Hanagat Ze'anpin. This is the world of logic that belongs to the union between the spiritual world and the physical world. Okay? That's being spiritual is always being able to elevate yourself to a place in which the impossible becomes possible, but it's always on a natural level. Somehow, the circumstances turn around and somebody cheats you and he gives you a girl you didn't love, but only later you realize that you need her. Like Jacob and Leah, correct? That still can be explained logically. That still can explain about turning the failures into success by thinking positive. It's still logic. But there's another realm. That's a realm that is the real Kfitzat HaDerech, the real quantum leap. And that's the same story that we read on the splitting of the Red Sea. Over there, when everybody prays to God on the shores of the Red Sea, and it says, and God says to Moses, why are you yelling at me? Ma titzak elai. Daber bnei Israel ve'isau. Talk to the children of Israel and let them travel. And the Zohar says, travel where? Where? And the answer, travel. This is not the time to have those spiritual moments and suddenly the Egyptian will love us and everything will be okay. No, this is not the time. You have to travel to a higher place. You have to travel to that place, not of a simple faith, but a higher level of faith. Faith in which you connect, you attach yourself to the real, original will of creation. This is called Hanagat Arich. This is called the higher crown. This is the Keter. That you connect to the original thought. And you connect to that place that if the original thought of the creation was to do good, I connect myself to that place without any logical reservations. Whatever happens from now on, you God, you take the wheel. I don't know where to go. I have no idea and I don't care. I know you're going to take care. That level of devotion, of not knowing when, how, where, because logic says we're in dead end. This place is the place you connect to the highest will, to the highest sphere. When you tap in there, the light coming from there has the power to remove any judgment, to remove any negativity, to remove any cause and effect issues. The result will be a quantum leap, much bigger. And it's not just a quantum leap of thought. It's the ability that you can have a kfitzat haderech physically. You can disappear one place and appear in another place. People did it for thousands of years. You can be saved from the most impossible disaster by something totally irrelevant, and there's no way to explain it. And there's no need also. This month is a month of Hanukkah. It's a month of miracles. We're always starting this month with VaYetse. It's always about, what was Hanukkah about? Going for a war that is hopeless from the beginning. Hopeless from the beginning. Like a bunch of Jews that didn't fight. We're talking about 164 BC. The last time Jews were fighting was 586 BC. How long was since then? That's 400 years, more than 420 years. Jews never raised a weapon. What are you going to do? Fight who? The Greeks that made war a profession, never experienced before on earth? You're going to fight them? But they did one thing. They connected to the light of God. By what? If I can't live in both worlds, just living in the physical world doesn't worth it. If being Esav is not enough, I give it up. The result was, what do we celebrate in Hanukkah? The bringing down of the light of a candle. And when you light the Chanukiah, Chanukiah has to be low, and you have to be standing. So when you're holding the candle, you make the blessing, the candle is above the height of the Chanukiah. Why? Because you bring in that light that comes to this world, creates a new reality, and disappears. That's a quantum leap. That there's no cause and effect and reward and punishment. All of this logic has no space anymore. It's just about sweetening the judgment, removing any pain, moving to the next level, while the previous level looks like, where was it? It's gone without leaving any trace. Faith can lead a person to that place. Should lead a person to that place. But the point is, as we say many times, an airplane is the best example. An airplane has two means of transportation, wheels and wings. God forbid the airplane will try to get from one airport to another on wheels. That will be a disaster always. What are the wheels? Logic. What are the wings? Faith. If you're trying to get from one place to another using only logic, that will be a disaster. The logic is only to get you for takeoff. Only by studying, learning, bringing yourself to a place of such faith that you take off, VaYetse Yaakov, that you really embark out, and you hit the place. When you hit the place, you'll arrive where you need to get, and you have no idea. That's what Jacob is saying. V'anochi lo yadati, and I didn't know. Because the solutions do not belong to their logic. When a real miracle happens, the solution will be something out of this world, right? You need to get out to hit that place, to hit that magical place in which heaven and earth are one. And then the will of the heaven manifests itself in front of your eyes, and you say, and I had no idea. That's why we should not give God ideas about what the solution should be. Because the solutions are out of the box and our logic is from within the box. And that's what this parasha is about. How do you raise ourselves to that place? How do you really create that faith? That there are solutions that are nice, positive, they are spiritual, whatever, and there are solutions that are out of this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Shavua Tov.